We're rolling, so let's do a high five marker.
Awesome.
All right, there we go.
And I just hold it like this?
You just hold it like that. You can switch hands. This button right here is the only one you need to know, that bottom right corner. If you see something and want to point it out, see, look, watch mine. You just flip it around like that.
Okay.
And then if you want to come back to you.
Advanced for me, but I'll re-up to my face.
There you go, perfect. All right, so wait, you were saying I caught you on a good day.
I don't think
Why?
I've ever done makeup in my life, but my entire team is women except for me, and we had our Getty images today.
Oh,
So
nice.
to do glam, and at the end I said, "Oh, Amy, could you do 5 minutes?" So she put a little powder and did my hair, and I'm feeling glamorous.
You are looking very glamorous. Yeah, and you also walked in to the coffee shop saying that you had some good news, which is...
Supposedly the film is playing so well that South by just added a 4th screening. They call it a buzz screening, which is awesome. I mean, like, for me, the absolute best experience is seeing your movie in a theater with other people.
Yes.
And I very creepily like to sit in the last row and watch reactions. I've thought about sitting in the front row and looking back as people squirm during the penis injections, but that feels a little too much.
That might be a little too invasive, although your movie is maybe the definition of invasive, which we're going to talk about here in a minute.
But we really actually we're trying to, the name of the game now is building audience and finding your own paths of distribution. We started a little Instagram, and we really want to get BTS of people's reactions during the movie.
Man, that's a great idea. Like,
I just hide in the corner and do close-ups of people.
I don't know. Do you know that horrible viral video, 2 girls, 1 cup? Do you know that?
That was like a formative 7th grade memory.
Yeah, right. You were much younger than me. But I remember, I don't think I've ever actually seen it, which I'm very grateful for, but I've seen the reactions of people watching it, and that is more fun, I think. And so that's a really great idea for your film in particular.
2 Girls, 1 Cup took me back. Wow, that is something I will never forget. Sitting in my back when we had one family computer. The day,
oh no!
Days before laptop. Yes, exactly.
Oh no! Please tell me your mom or dad didn't walk in.
Movie, and my friends were over, and we put on 2 Girls, 1 Cup.
Wow.
Maybe there's a small part of that could be why I made Man 20-something years later.
That's a very gross start to the episode. Way to go, Daniel. So let me introduce you here. So I have the extreme pleasure of meeting, this is our first meeting.
Yes.
We haven't met before. Daniel Lombroso. Lombroso.
Yeah.
Brooklyn-based filmmaker.
Correct.
Here with the world premiere, right? Of the movie that people cannot stop talking about, literally. And I'm not saying that to wax your car. I have had so many people ask me about this movie.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to hear that.
Tell me they want to see this movie, be slightly horrified about this movie. So whatever you're doing it right, because this movie, before we even booked this walk, was being talked about.
Amazing. I'm so thrilled to hear that. Thank you.
Well, and so the title of the movie is Manhood. And so take it from there. Tell us about Manhood.
On your left.
You're listening to DocWalks with Ben and Keith.
So Manhood is about the popularization of penis enhancement procedures, which have exploded in popularity in the U.S. By the way, should I be looking here or at you?
You look anywhere you want.
Okay. I'm more comfortable looking at you, but if you want me to look that way, I can.
No. Even though you are carrying a selfie stick, the idea is I hope you're not even really paying attention to the camera and we're just talking.
Great. So usually I'll talk to you then. So Manhood is about the popularization of penis enhancement procedures. Might be something you heard about since you were a kid. Turns out men have been trying to enlarge their penis since the cavemen. Cavemen would have snakes bite their penis so it would temporarily swell. But now we have this weird moment where it's technologically possible and men are feeling more pressure than ever before because of many things we'll talk about. Porn, social media,
Interesting.
which I'm sure we'll dig into. So people don't realize this is happening, but there's a revolution in cosmetics. And all of these guys around the country are paying huge amounts of money, usually in cash, always in cash. It's never covered by insurance.
I hope if my dental procedures are not covered by insurance, that penis enlargement procedures are not also covered.
It's a cash-based industry, and men are paying anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000.
Jeez.
It's temporary, and most important, it's girth, not length. It's a girth enhancement.
Whoa.
And
That's probably in the fine print, though, I would imagine, right? They probably don't lead with that.
there's no safe way to lengthen the penis at this time,
Okay.
but there is now, for the first time in history, a safe way to do girth enhancement. It's basically, think of Botox or filler. It's a lip filler injection.
Okay.
Many injections, I think anywhere from 4 to 8 needles, depending on their desired girth.
We sure see a lot of it in the movie, too.
Yeah. And I guess like at a more kind of intellectual level, like, okay, it seems like a silly hook. Who cares? It's just, for me as a journalist, I've come from journalism. It felt like an amazing way to explore like much deeper themes. And that's what we
Absolutely.
do in the
Well, that, wow, what a great setup. You were kind enough to send me a screener, so I did watch the movie, and I had the pleasure of watching it with my wife, which was really fun to see her reaction to it.
Yeah.
And to kind of like contrast that with mine. The movie, as you can imagine, is startling because of the subject matter. And here, let's cross over here. But I love the way at the beginning you tease, like we know what we're in for. Like you kind of set up like, this is what we're talking about. This is what's going to happen. We meet the main character. There's a lot of selective framing around the male nudity at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then the first reveal is like really intense. And I think I actually gasped and my wife didn't. And then from there, it's kind of like, then it's on. And we
get used to it actually pretty quickly.
It's wild how it's so stigmatized.
Yes.
And then it quickly becomes like, oh, right, that's what this is about. And we're just going to see like a lot of variation on this theme.
The real test for him was my father, who's a Republican.
Yeah.
And first of all, he didn't even understand. He said, "So son, is this a short film?" I said, "No, Dad, it's a big film."
No, it's a girthy film.
He didn't realize. He comes over, and it was really tough for him. Then he settled in, and he was like panting and breathing and sweating. And I was like, "Oh God, hates it." He's, why did I support? What is my son doing with his life? And then at the end, he said, "What a beautiful commentary on modern America." And I was like,
wow.
Fox is watching father. So
I mean, I think that's the best review you could get for the film in a way, right? Like if you made something that your dad could relate to, and I don't know if be moved is overstating it, but like, yeah, that's amazing. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think he came in being like, "Son, did you getting the procedure?" I think there were so many questions.
Sure.
And then he got sucked in and has become a big supporter. And we have found that women actually get it right away, and men come in with all sorts of bullshit and baggage.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes in, they're just sucked in. And
wow.
Because for whatever reason, men don't talk about these things.
Sure.
Don't talk about. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's kind of like one of the last remaining taboos in our culture, right? Like, you know, I feel like women's clothing just continues to get less and less and more revealing, whereas men's kind of doesn't do that and sort of stays the same. And that, you know, sort of area for men is basically just kind of considered to be like not emphasized ever. You know, the idea of like seeing other guys in the shower and all that when you're growing up is like so formative because you don't really see that as other men. Like there aren't a lot of instances where we're in that situation together.
You don't see it at all.
Yeah.
I've never spoken to my friends about penis size. For the record, I've never seen any family members' penis. I mean, I think it's important to say because people don't realize how hidden a world it is for American men. I think in other cultures, I remember meeting an ex-girlfriend's father in Japan when she was Japanese. And like the first thing we did was go to the onsen together, which is a ritual bath. And I was naked with him 2 hours after I met him.
Wow.
But I've never been that way with my own father or with my brother or with any of my friends.
Did you feel like some shame that he didn't?
I felt embarrassed, yeah, for sure. And I felt self-conscious, and I was looking down and making sure I was doing okay.
That it wasn't too cold in there. And...
Yeah, well, it's hot, but yeah, but it's just something. It's a taboo that I didn't realize was so entrenched, and so I started making this project,
right?
Trying to raise money for this project. What would always happen is we talk to female executives or queer executives, and they would get it right away.
Interesting.
And then typically we would get to kind of the straight guy at the top.
Yeah.
and they would get incredibly uncomfortable and oftentimes block the funding.
No way.
So we had, I won't get into any detail, but we had a few offers early. I wouldn't say offers, very promising conversations.
Yeah.
And it would get to like upper management. And someone who was probably in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, probably 50s or 60s and was straight, felt very uncomfortable with the idea.
Wow.
And the deals would fall through. So we really roughed the film. It was made fully independently. Some amazing Penny Lane was supporting from the sidelines.
Penny Lane, future DocWalks guest and prolific documentarian who I'm a big fan of because she largely makes comedic documentaries, which I would say Manhood, when I saw that she was an executive producer, I was like, oh, this is going to be comedic.
Yeah.
And I think the film has such an interesting tone, like how, because it is comedic for sure, but I wouldn't say that it's a comedy doc. Like, how would you describe the tone?
I think it's dark. It's really dark. And there's moments of comedy and moments of levity. What we're going into people's traumas, their deepest secret. You're kind of understanding what led these men to the table and why this filmmaker is able to get these guys to open up with their pants at their ankles. And
that is my main question for you. And I feel like I want to save that for a second. Let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
Because I was not aware of you as a director until this movie. And then when I looked you up, I was like, oh my God, this guy.
Yeah.
First off, how old are you?
33.
Oh my gosh. I'm 48. I'm 15 years older than you. Yeah. And you are so prolific already at 33. So you worked at the Atlantic.
For about a little more than 5 years.
Making short content for the Atlantic, right? Short documentaries.
Yes, and then I directed their first feature film called White Noise.
Which was about alt-right figures like Richard Spencer and
I embedded with white nationalists for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh my gosh! And you are Jewish.
Like both my grandmothers are Holocaust survivors.
I read that.
One from Germany and one from Poland.
I'm so sorry, man.
That's okay. I mean, they were actually both alive at that time and were super supportive and
wow.
And also saw right through the bullshit of those guys.
Right.
Like, part of the kind of goal of that project was to take their power away. Like I have a very light touch as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. Super rare that my perspective is known. You would never know watching White Noise that the filmmaker is Jewish or the grandson of survivors.
Well, that speaks to access too, because so somehow you have managed to convince a lot of men to be pantsless and very vulnerable in manhood, and then a bunch of white nationalists who hate Jewish people to be very vulnerable and open up in front of your camera as a Jewish filmmaker. Yeah. So wait, what is your backstory? Like, how did you develop this superpower?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I come from journalism, so I was at the Atlantic and then I was at the New Yorker for many years. I think
And how did you get those gigs? Like, did you go to film school?
I did not go to film school. I'm entirely self-taught.
Okay.
I used to sell brownies out of a shoebox in my public school and saved up enough money and went to B&H Camera when I was 14 or 15, when I was a sophomore.
Okay.
Bought a little mini DSLR camera and just started making movies with my friends. And going to film school seemed incredibly impractical for the way I was raised and what my parents' expectations. So I studied political science and history at McGill.
Okay.
But I could not stop making movies. I got the itch at 14 or 15, and it's basically all I've done since then. So at McGill, I did a full degree in poli-sci and history, but all I was doing in my free time was making movies.
Well, I saw that Errol Morris was an executive producer on a short doc that you made, and I think that's his backstory, right? Wasn't he philosophy and history or something? And then he, similar to you, was like, the more interesting thing is to just follow these people and kind of almost like work out the history in real time, or the philosophy that he had studied, like through finding these incredible stories.
I'm a politics guy at heart, and even Manhood has this crazy hook, but is, I think, a deeply political film. And when you watch Errol's work, it's so philosophical. Like, Donald Rumsfeld to like reflect on his decision.
Right.
Getting a guy with like these barely sentient to reflect on what he did, or Robert McNamara, or whatever other film.
Yeah.
Like he is doing that, and actually that's how this is a lesson I always tell filmmakers, they say, how do you get Errol? Is he your agent or whatever? I'm like, no, I just love him so much. So I went to one of his screenings and I hovered around until everyone was gone.
Yeah.
Followed him into the parking lot. And I said, hey, I have this film with the New Yorker. It's a Holocaust film. You know, survivors are disappearing very quickly. It's for my grandmother. Would just love for you to watch it. And he gave me his email. I thought he would never reply. And then I get a phone call from him 2 days later while I was with my grandmother. And he said, hey, Daniel, it's Errol Morris. I fucking love, he said, fuck. I fucking love the movie. Your grandmother's a fucking incredible character.
Wow.
I put him on speaker and I said, Grandma, it's Errol Morris. And she said, Errol who?
Which I'm sure he loved. I'm sure that was so charming.
They did some Q&As together. There was a very flirty vibe.
Oh, funny. Wow.
But yeah, when I think he was, my inspiration is always more of a narrative, but in the documentary world, Errol and then Penny, I would say.
Oh, I love that.
And when I think...
And you're working with your two heroes. That's incredible.
Errol and then Penny kind of in the lighter way and just her unbelievable brilliance.
Yeah.
So I feel so grateful to have worked with them both.
Man, I love that you told that story because whenever I talk to film students, I encourage them to do just that. Like, find who it is that really, like, makes work that inspires you in some way and then reach out to them directly. And I had a professor at the University of Kansas where I went to undergrad encouraged me to do the same thing. And so I wrote to Albert Maysles, Les Blank, and Ross McElwee. And all of them but Les wrote me back. And it was so formative to be like, oh, these are like actual people who like will respond if I am curious and open and like deferential. Like if I treat it as like a mentorship kind of thing, like I just needed some advice, they were willing to offer it. And then later when I met Les Blank, I did a similar thing. I drove from Lawrence, Kansas to Oklahoma City where they were bringing him in, and I hung around and let him know I was a fan. I had a cut of my senior thesis documentary. He watched it, he gave me notes. I got to drive him around and it was totally amazing. And I love that mentorship relationship, and it is so important, I think, for young artists to develop. So I think that's really cool that you like took that opportunity.
I mean, sounds like you did too.
But you didn't take it lightly. Like you had something to show.
The Penny thing is the same. I was at Big Sky Film Festival. Shout out to Big Sky. Love Big Sky. Really a festival that helped launch my career. And Penny was doing a master class there, and I get nervous, I'm not like, if people always say, how do you go up to these people and you seem fearless? I will remember going up to Penny, my heart was beating super fast. But like, Summer for Work, Hail Satan, Kenny G, many other new ones.
So good.
Confessions, Flacco coming out, go see Flacco when it's out. Blew my mind. And so I went up to her and introduced myself, and she had heard about White Noise but not seen it. And then that night, her and Jeremy Workman watched White Noise, and she sent me like a note about how much she loved it and so wished it got more attention when it came out.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, we're friends, so it wouldn't have felt as momentous, but at that time, I'll just always remember it was like on the verge of tears. Yeah,
that's so great. That's so great. Well, so half our listeners listen to the show instead of watch it, and we are walking in kind of like a particularly beautiful stretch. Why don't you narrate where we are here and what you're seeing?
Wow, this show is so fun. More shows should get this fun.
Yeah. All right.
It's beautiful by the river. I don't know Austin well, but I love it and might have to be Greenpoint, Brooklyn soon too.
Oh, Daniel, please move to town. We love our creative community here, and the Austin Film Society is a godsend. And like, there are so many incredible films being made here. We would love to add you into that mix.
We're by the river. There's trees.
We're on we're on the hike and bike trail is where we are, and we're on the east side. So if people ask you where we met, for example, you just be like, oh, we were on the east side.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And this is Lady Bird Lake, which is technically a river, but it's a dammed river that the city is basically built around. So wait, I want to know, let's go up this way. So you start out with a small camera, age 14.
Yeah.
You try to get away from filmmaking, but it keeps sucking you back in.
Literally. I kept telling my parents, my friends, I'm going to do something else. And then 3 months into my time at McGill, I was like finding actors from Craigslist for $30 who would haggle me for an extra $5 or $10.
Oh, that's funny.
Borrowing cameras from random places and cheating and stealing locations. And those movies are all awful, but I just, I couldn't. My friends were out getting drunk, and then they'd wake up in the morning, and I'd dress them up and put them in my movie.
Well, and it sounds like you were making narratives if you're finding actors.
Yeah.
So what was it about? When did you get bit by the documentary bug?
I was studying abroad in Turkey, in Istanbul, my junior year. And I don't think a time or moment has ever blown my mind that much as living in Istanbul, which is an unbelievable city, double or triple the size of New York, 15, 20 million.
Is that right?
Huge.
Wow. I didn't understand
It's also,
that.
the city is sprawling. It never ends, but it's also very dense. And I always remember walking from, if there are any Turkish listeners, from a neighborhood called like Rumeli Histarusu. It's on a hill down to the river, to this neighborhood called Bebek, and you see like the river and just like the life there. I don't know how to explain it, but I had never felt so inspired to kind of go out and report and talk to people. So I started just kind of like doing journalism there on the side during my degree in Turkey.
This is the second time that you've mentioned coming from journalism. I'm so fascinated by that because my experience was I wanted to be a creative writer, fell into documentary and was like, I'm making documentaries, and at no point did I ever think it was journalism. So I'm curious as to why that
So I was doing like,
that label
journalism in Turkey. I would
specifically that was part of why you were there.
no. I was studying political science, but on the side there was an election. And
Okay.
The president is quite repressive. Erdogan, he's still there.
Yeah.
And I walked around, and I just, with a friend who was Turkish from Germany, we started interviewing people about the mayor and who they wanted and the state of Turkish politics.
Okay.
And it got picked up by, so it doesn't sound like a huge deal, but like Huffington Post,
Yeah.
like covered it, and they had this show called Huffington Post Live, and they called me and they wanted me live on the show.
Yeah.
And it's this guy Ahmed Eldin, who now is like a big journalist, and I'll always remember I was like sweating for a full day for my like 5-minute spot on HuffPost Live where I was talking about, where I was like the Turkey correspondent.
Well, and you would have been what, like 19, 20 years
20.
old? Wow.
And then around that time, I think a kid who was a neuroscientist in very religious Muslim from like a different part of town, grew up like in a really pious family, heard about the work I was doing, reached out, and he said there's this community in the eastern part of Turkey called the Syriac Orthodox Christians, and there used to be 200,000 or 300,000. Now there's only 3,000 left. And he said, Daniel, would you ever want to go take some photos? And I said, well, what if we make a movie on them? So we raised a small amount of money through his mosque. Actually, we went and presented at his mosque, and
And he knew that you were Jewish American.
well, there was a he did not know. There was a moment
Interesting.
that I will probably not get into where he was pretty shocked and definitely affected the relationship for a while.
Okay.
But it actually like led to a tremendous amount of growth, and yeah, that's its own story. We're still very close, and I was definitely the first Jewish person he had met and had a lot of expectations, conspiracies.
Sure.
He thought I was a spy for Israel. I mean, it was like all sorts of things, but which I'm not, for the record. But we became really close friends, and we flew to Eastern Turkey and made this documentary called Mountain of Servants, which is not online anymore.
I read
this dwindling community, and it started winning student film festivals and whatever.
Oh, okay. So this is your first documentary.
The Atlantic magazine saw it and hired me out of school. And I mean, I was hustling. I was never, but like, it just happened with this, like, one thing leads to another.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so when you made that and it started getting some positive reinforcement, did you have that moment where you realized like, oh, documentary is the thing and maybe I go that direction? Or is it just one documentary led to the next, led to the next? I don't know.
No, it was more calculated. Even at a young age, I realized that narrative requires capital.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm not in a position where I can call someone and they just wire me
Sure.
a lot of money. And, you know, some filmmakers are in that position. And I think it's something we should talk about more openly. And the barrier of entry to documentary is so much lower. Like, I was in this place, Istanbul, Turkey, that I was obsessed with, and met this guy, and we raised $2,000, which is a totally reasonable amount that anyone could find if they hustle. And we got a DSLR and a sound guy and flew to Eastern Turkey and made a film.
Wow.
You know, and I just realized that this is something I could keep doing and felt sustainable. So I would love to do narrative one day, but at that time, and to this day, it just feels like documentary is something I can kind of keep nourishing my soul with and keep making.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. So, okay. So you make that, the Atlantic hires you. Let's fast forward a little bit to White Noise.
Sure.
and this is the question of access that I'm so interested in with you, with your work in particular. How in the world, as somebody who is not only Jewish, but whose both grandmothers are Holocaust survivors, how do you then go about making a movie about people who hate you?
I was curious about them. I wanted to understand their inner motor and their world. A lot of these people were my age, were being radicalized, were quite educated, good looking, savvy, smart, knew how to use the internet. My understanding of white nationalists was wrong. It was a person in a trailer park in Alabama who's a skinhead.
Right.
And here was this whole new generation of like very, very savvy people who were more articulate than me, frankly, and were building huge movements. And I wasn't really scared. I'm actually much more scared now than I was then about the state of racism and anti-Semitism and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of intrigued, like, how come I took this life path where I feel like almost criminally open-minded? Like, I really feel like everyone has a valid perspective.
That's going to be the name of your episode, Criminally Open-Minded.
No, it's horrible. I can't make up my mind about anything. That's why my work really almost never judges. And then here are these people who are so sure that if only this immigrant group or the Jews or women or whatever went underground, then society would be better, you know? And I was so kind of fascinated by their
judgment,
their dogmatic view.
Daniel, I love that.
I just kept trying. And
I love that you were like, I am not this way. You are this way. Help me understand why.
And I still feel that way, and came out with some answers. And I guess the best example would be someone named Lauren Southern. She's a woman in the film, 22 years old, super successful.
Okay.
And
successful on what level? Like has a lot of followers?
Millions of followers.
Okay.
Access to highest levels of government, especially in Europe and Canada.
Oh, wow.
Making films that Tucker Carlson was watching.
Oh, geez.
Talking about on Fox News.
Okay.
Raising millions of dollars. And I kept meeting her, and she said, I don't need you. I already have my own press. But I was super persistent. I met her in August, shortly after Charlottesville, if you remember that.
Of course.
This was Charlottesville.
Here, watch this car coming here.
And it took...
Let's actually go through here, and we'll do a little spin.
It took 7 months of meeting her at events. Anytime she'd be in D.C. where I lived, I'd just be that fucking guy waiting in the parking lot, like with Errol. And then Lauren, like, and eventually I'll always remember in March, 7 months later, I convinced my boss to let me buy her lunch. Or to buy lunch with her, or whatever.
Okay.
And I took her out to this place in D.C., and I said, Lauren, everyone else in the conservative movement is in this film. How can Lauren Southern not be in the project? We have everyone else. And she's like, you're right, Daniel, I have to be in it, because otherwise, if everyone else is and I'm not, then my perspective is not reflected. So, like, it's just a long game, you know? She, at the beginning, said, you have no leverage, and at the end I had all the leverage because she was the only one who didn't agree.
Wow, Daniel, so much of your story is about being persistent and showing up, and I love that, like, just being in the parking lot and getting there.
How many parking lots?
That is fantastic, man. Okay, so then, but I haven't seen this movie, and I can't wait to watch it, but I did read about the ending of it. So tell us how this resolves with her.
So all of the characters are full of hypocrisy and contradiction, and that's what made it such a polarizing film. It did quite well. I think some people and critics struggled with the way that the level to which these people were maybe not humanized, but understood. And I think you come out understanding just like how empty these individuals are, how filled they are with contradiction, all of them. I think Lauren is probably the best example. Lauren is fighting for a white future, an anti-feminist future, where women are making babies within the context of marriage. Okay. I find out in the last scene that she's having a child out of wedlock with her Asian security guard. So
wow.
So, and it's a very subtle form of storytelling, and it challenges the audience to really see that. And I think the proof is that the subjects never promoted it. They didn't. The fear was always, oh, this is promo for them. It's oxygen. And these people in their world feel superhuman to their audience. And here's this sort of like humiliating portrait of their private life where they don't know what to do with themselves when they wake up in the morning.
But let me ask you this very important question, because I feel like I know the answer, but I want to hear what you say to this, because I would venture to guess from the little bit of time that I've spent with you and seeing your movie that was not your intention. You weren't trying to
No.
paint a humiliating personal portrait of these people. You, like you said, were trying to understand them, and in understanding them, they sort of revealed themselves
Exactly.
to be contradictory and hypocritical. Is that right?
Exactly. Even that word I just used, I almost regret. It's something I don't say often. It's just been so many years now that I feel like people... It's just, yes. I have a lot of faith in audiences. And if you do your work and show that a white woman who says that her goal is to turn away immigrants and have happily married families has a non-white child out of wedlock, that the audience can connect those dots.
Yeah. Wow.
I guess a few other examples from the film. Mike Cernovich, who was one of the propagators of the Pizzagate conspiracy, that there was an elite sex trafficking ring, which actually now feels more true than it was then.
Isn't that wild that the Epstein files have really made all the conspiracy theorists look like they might have actually been onto something?
But he also said Hillary had Parkinson's, which got crazy traffic, like
Right.
a lot of other nonsense.
Right.
You know, Mike Cernovich was married to a Persian woman and had kids who were speaking Farsi at home. Even he tweets that diversity is white genocide.
Oh my gosh, these
He got
people.
famous as a men's rights activist. Maybe it's a connection to manhood. But I shouldn't say most of his money, I don't want to get it wrong, but some of his money comes from his divorce with his first wife, who made much more money than him. And I said, Mike, you're all about being an alpha male. And he says, well, it's pretty alpha to take money from a woman, isn't it? Richard Spencer, who's sort of the leader of the Nazi movement, it turns out all he wanted to do was to be an avant-garde theater director.
Yeah, operas. And I actually know a little bit about Richard Spencer because my business partner grew up with him in Dallas.
Yeah, he's from
Yeah.
St. Mark's Academy.
Yeah, and that's where Barron, who runs the Bear with me, went to St. Mark's, and they were actually family friends and have had a falling out, of course, like he has with almost everybody in his life because of this wild direction that he's chosen. But according to Barron, he was, very normal and not like that as a kid, and at some point got radicalized, and his parents have a hard time with it, and it'd be like
his dad's an ophthalmologist and
ophthalmologist. Yeah, exactly.
Trustful doctor.
Yeah.
They were friendly with the Bush family. Quite well off. Yeah.
Wow. Man,
That's the thing. I mean, it's like, okay, here's this patrician guy, wealthy guy. Then you get someone like Mike Cernovich, who grew up working class. Here's Lauren Southern, who has everything in the world working for her, and they're all being sucked in. And I had a genuine curiosity, and the movie leaves it quite open-ended.
Man, Daniel, I so admire your persistence and your willingness to put yourself into what, in that situation, could have been a dangerous position.
There
right?
were dangerous moments, for sure.
Yeah. We made a Kid Rock documentary that will never come out, or at least at this point. It's really wild. We had our first child who was like less than a year old at home, and I was literally leaving at the height of COVID to go to like Trump rallies with film Kid Rock. And
that sounds amazing.
I
made himself he's like so integral to like MAGA culture.
Well, and at the time he was doing something similar to what you're talking about, where he was writing this kind of reconciliation filled music about like, let's all party together. We're all Americans. We're more alike than we are divided. And the movie ends with this very like hopeful, I'm going to change and I'm going to sit back and shut my mouth and hope for the best. And, and you're kind of left with this like, wow, if there's hope for Kid Rock, there's hope for all of us, And then the movie fell apart for reasons I'll tell you about later, but he has gone so far the other way. Yeah. But it's like you can't unsee the sort of reasons for the position that he's in, and I have a lot of empathy for them. And so I think a lot of these people are just like flawed, complex human beings. Yeah, we all are. And they just happen to have a really big megaphone. Yeah. And I think they get kind of addicted to the feedback
for sure
that they get from their audience and know what to say to incite a lot of attention. Here, why don't we cross the street?
That's exactly it. Lauren in particular, the woman in the film, I know for a fact wanted to leave for years. She would tell me privately. And then 6 months later, I'd see her putting out like the most vicious video. And I knew that she didn't believe that stuff anymore, but her friend group, her livelihood, her fame, like all depended on acting that out.
And once you establish that, it's got to be so hard to step away, right?
Impossible. She finally did. And it's an open question how sincere her reinvention is. But we've talked recently, and she's she seems like she's on the right track in a lot of ways, and if that's true, I'm really happy for her.
Cool. Maybe there's a sequel, a part 2.
No, if there is for anyone, it's her. She is, after Manhood, is the most fascinating person I've ever reported on, made a film about.
Wow. Well, that brings us to Manhood. So this movie starts last night when we were watching it, and as I mentioned, there's some very loud dogs over here. Very excited to see us. I knew what it was about. I knew that there was going to be lots of shots of penises. The reveal, when we finally see them, was great because you hold it off for a long time. But then once we see it, it's not only are we following 3 main characters, or actually I guess maybe you can make a case that it's 4, counting, well, I guess I was going to say Bill, who's the main character doctor.
Yeah.
Then there's the young OnlyFans model, David. Yeah. Then there's the father of 5,
Ruben.
And who is I guess the 4th is Lori. I was thinking there was one other one, but maybe it's
his wife, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. Anyways, what I was going to say is that we see not only all the main characters' penises, but we see other patients. Yeah. And that was when I was like, wow, how is he able to talk these people into literally bearing what can be the most sensitive parts of themselves in an incredibly vulnerable moment when they're literally getting injections, which I can only assume are very painful.
Painful and expensive.
And expensive. How in the world are you there with a camera capturing that?
So I worked at the New Yorker, as you know, and unfortunately, the department was more, I wouldn't say it was shut down, but was severely downsized about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Everyone was laid off except for the guy named Paul Moakley, who I love and I'm still very close to.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there at home, frankly depressed and trying to figure out my next move. And I had done some work on cosmetics. I made a short for the New Yorker about the Brazilian butt lift, the deadliest plastic surgery in the world.
Whoa, it's the deadliest?
It was at the time. I don't know if it is anymore.
What makes it so deadly to get?
1 in 3,000 death rate. You can hit an artery in your butt. I'm forgetting the name of that artery, and it causes an embolism. And you should stop your own fat. It's horrible.
Good Lord.
But I somehow like even though I'm known for kind of like extremism, and this is actually also about extremism, the world of cosmetics has always fascinated, image and perception has always fascinated me. So I'm sitting at home really sad because I loved my job. And I had the severance package, which was, 2.5 months of pay. So I booked a one-way ticket to Dallas with that. I borrowed my friend Joe Hale's camera in Bushwick. He gave it to me for free, and then for like $200, it sat at even nothing. And I flew to Dallas, and I would just sit in the waiting room and just introduce myself to these different patients.
Come on.
And I met like every kind of person. You don't always know who they are in the film, and some of them didn't make the film. But we're talking about a megachurch pastor getting his meeting.
No way.
Very, very world famous megachurch pastor.
No way.
I cannot give any identifying details about, but I can share that. A brain cancer survivor who you meet in the film.
Yeah, that was one of the people I was thinking about, and he
control agent and many others.
Oh yeah, and the brain cancer survivor you can kind of understand because he basically is like, I've only got a couple months. I'm gonna do what I can do, whatever I want. So you kind of get a sort of joie de vivre, like there's no rules, and I'm kind of uninhibited because of this experience vibe from him.
Yeah.
But particularly the OnlyFans model, David, who is so tormented about not only the shame he feels around his botched penis surgery, but his relationship to his very Catholic mother.
Yeah.
The fact that you get him to be so open and so vulnerable, and he's literally the last shot of the film, is really remarkable. Like you must have, gaining trust doesn't even necessarily capture it because it's so intimate what you're filming. So just talk to me about that relationship.
So David I met through, this is the spoiler part, so I'll just say that in advance. I met Bill first, of course, the cosmetologist or nurse practitioner doing that.
He's the doctor who's doing the procedures, yeah.
Exactly. And then I met David, who is one who I met him at, he was basically giving away part of the movie, but he's having a romantic relationship with Bill, with the doctor.
And that was happening when you met them?
Yes, when I met them, David was at the house, and I said, who is this really interesting, charming, good-looking guy who's around Bill? What's going on? Later on, did I realize they were in a throuple together, in a three-way relationship? Okay, this seems interesting.
You know, it's funny, my wife called it from the beginning.
Oh, really?
So when you reveal that in the movie, she goes, I knew it. I saw it like from the jump.
We tried to tease it, and it's funny. The reviews have been exceptional, but one critic evidently went to the bathroom or something because he said, what starts off as something develops into a beautiful friendship. And I guess it was a beautiful friendship, but a little more than that.
Little more going on than that.
I missed the thought of the three of them in bed together.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I meet David that way. He's, very, I think here I'm comfortable saying humiliated. He says that himself, and very shy. And so we're going for him in life. And then eventually we get to the point where he tells me not only is he with Bill, but he got his penis enlarged. And not only is his penis enlarged, he got his penis botched.
Yeah.
Bad doctor in Florida. It is a doctor that we had been pursuing relentlessly for 6 months to a year.
Wow.
It took us 2 years to get Dr. Loria in the film.
Because spoiler alert again, you do actually interview him at the end. Yeah.
Another spoiler. And that was nonstop. And we literally showed up in Florida at his clinic.
Wow.
Because he was avoiding our phone calls and emails.
Wow.
And he was, I guess, charmed by us and at leave. So anyway, just to close the David thing, eventually we just thought it was an unbelievable story. His penis was botched and he wanted to get it fixed, and we could follow him on the journey for reconstructive surgery. So I made an agreement I never had before, which is that, you don't know this watching the film, we were going to have to use face replacement technology because he was so embarrassed.
Wow.
And we had no money in the budget. I mean, the budget was tiny, but we that's the commitment we made because it was just such an unbelievable story. And we put no pressure on him. He wanted to do it, but he wasn't ready to be public. And the deeper and deeper we got into the story, he got more and more comfortable.
Okay.
And then when World of Wonder came on, who are incredible partners, of the creators of RuPaul's Drag Race, we were feeling like he actually comes out looking really spectacular.
Yeah, hang on. We've got a very loud...
he had such a moving storyline. I've never made this exception for anyone, but Fenton and Randy said, just try showing it to him. So we brought him to New York. We rented a theater. Fenton was there, Fenton Bailey from World of Wonder. We showed David the film, and he just bawled crying and called his family and told my brother everything about his sexuality and his penis.
Whoa. Oh my God, Daniel.
He agreed to be in the film as himself.
Daniel, you unlocked something so incredible for him. That's really, and he's such an interesting part of the film because, you do this so masterfully. Like what starts as this thing that you think is like for porn stars and egomaniacs and basically people that you don't necessarily deserve a lot of sympathy, really surprises you by stories like his, because he's a handsome guy. He is making a lot of money as an OnlyFans model, or has up to that point. Seems very confident and like self-assured, and the fact that it is then revealed that he's actually like pretty uncomfortable with his body and he's got a lot of shame around his sexuality comes as, at least for me as a viewer, something of a surprise. And the fact that he is so obsessed with how his penis looks is unusual, at least for me, because you sort of see all the other things he has going for him, but he can't see that. All he can sort of focus on is the thing that isn't going well for him. And it's so interesting, and I think that's what your movie is ultimately commenting on, right? Is like sort of the state of modern masculinity, like focusing on what seems like it really shouldn't matter all that much, and then but really like making that the central focus is interesting. Just that in and of itself.
I mean, David is so important because, like you said, everything is going right for him.
Yeah.
But he's still fixated on this one problem.
Yes.
And by the way, his penis, I think it's worth saying for the record, because people are confused going in oftentimes, not seeing the movie, but their expectations. All of these men are well endowed. None of them need it, including David, Ruben, Bill. No one started with a small penis. They just want more.
That is so
just
strange.
live in this culture, call it capitalism or pressures of social media and smartphones. where we all feel inadequate. We're like literally designed to feel inadequate so that we buy more things, buy more enhancements,
Wow.
spend more time on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, insert addictive app.
Hey, can we go this way or? Yeah, we're good? Okay, can we just walk right through the front? Okay, thank you. Let's narrate this for a second because I don't think I've ever walked through an active construction site like this, and they just waved us through. So there's a bobcat.
This thing's something
Literally.
picture of us doing
literally,
DocWalks.
literally digging up a hole in the ground. Well, yeah, here, watch that. Woo! Oh my goodness. Wow, we just took our lives in our own hands there. Speaking of, thank you, of modern masculinity, we just walked right by like 6 construction workers digging up a street back there. And I so love what you were saying though, that like this age where we're all sort of made to feel inadequate even though we're not, because that generates profit for companies selling us the antidote to feeling inadequate, right?
Or porn stars who are designed to have big penises for the screen or have them medically enhanced.
Yeah.
Our marketing, of course, has always been designed to be aspirational. That's the
Right.
nature of marketing. But now marketing is inescapable. I mean, my alarm clock is my phone, so the first thing I do in the morning is check these stupid apps that make me feel like shit.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
And we're all doing that. And we've never lived in a time where you can scroll past a 4 and more, an ex-girlfriend, someone with a BBL, whatever else,
Right.
one after another.
Yeah.
Memories were sort of left in the past.
Man, that's so interesting that you're saying that. This is a bad story because I can't remember the citation for it, but I heard somebody recently talk about how we go on an emotional roller coaster hundreds of times a day in a way that is completely unique to the way civilization, to human beings have lived up to this point. Like you would go through a whole day and maybe have 2 or 3 big shifts in emotion. Whereas today you get that in seconds when you get an alert about a new atrocity somewhere or a weather event that's catastrophic or an ex-girlfriend or whatever the case may be. Like we're just always emotionally triggered right now. And I think you see that. It's part of the division. That's part of people's anxiety and depression. And yeah, it's really wild.
I think it's going to be seen like cigarettes one day where, when you watch ads from the 50s, or like Mike Wallace was like hosting a show and say like, brought to you by Marlboro, your doctor recommends Marlboro.
Right.
I love that archive because it's so classy and cool.
Yes, yeah.
I do think the smartphone will be seen. Maybe, we're so addicted that it's way broader than cigarettes. That the epidemic is broader that it seems almost impossible to roll back. But I think we will start to have an understanding of just how hard it is on us. And I'm happy to see that kids are getting out of schools, and it's a good first step.
Let's keep going this way. I want to talk to you. I know we're kind of running out of time, but
Whatever you need.
We talked about one main character in your movie. Yeah. The one that we're not talking about is maybe the most interesting to me. He's the father of 5. Yeah. He is a aspiring, struggling stand-up comedian.
Yeah, and he's with us here in Austin, actually.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I have to say, as a viewer, I felt very little sympathy for this guy. Yeah. Because you learn how expensive this procedure is, and then you see that he does not have the money to be spending on this procedure. And you learn kind of in waves how many children he has, and you see him have to leave his house and move in with his ex-partner, mother of 2 of the children. And it feels very complicated because he seems almost like a cautionary tale of this type of procedure. Like he is falling for this in a way that is really detrimental to him. But he keeps, in the movie, justifying how it's not detrimental and it's actually kind of a good thing. And can you just reflect on that a little bit for me? Because I found myself as somebody who I was really struggling because I wanted to empathize with him and I had a hard time.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I really see him as like the journalistic storyline. we're all reading about kind of the male loneliness epidemic and the growth of manosphere podcasts.
Yeah.
You see that in Ruben's storyline all day long. He's listening to Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, who, many Tom Segura, all these people who are totally fine, but like you realize how much they're talking about is that a man is a provider, a man is strong, a man is a man is a big dick.
Right.
At the same time, he actually is quite a good father, but he's making really reckless financial decisions.
Yeah.
Again, spoiler, you find out part of the way through the movie after his third procedure, each one costs, almost anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 per session. You find out that he can't pay his mortgage and has to sell his house.
Right.
And at the end of the movie, he's living with his mother.
Yeah.
And his very last shot of the movie, he has sort of learned his lesson, but he decides to go back to the table and get another shot.
I know. It's so complicated.
Ruben's very last line is, "This is going to be awesome."
It's going to be awesome. And he smiles like he's like, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, here, let's just do a circle back on the other side, is that it feels very, I don't know how to take it, because and I think that's good. I sort of like that I'm left to wrestle with it in a way.
I am and will always be drawn to darker storylines, and I just think Ruben, more than David, is a stand-in for what's happening in our country.
Interesting.
And the loneliness and addiction and
Yeah.
confusion that so many of us feel. And
Wow.
you don't have to, some people love him, and we gave him big hugs after the screening, and some people don't. A lot of fathers have been very kind of,
I think maybe that's it. I have 2 little kids, and his reckless financial decisions, as you eloquently put it, coupled with what I know to mean for his children, I think really made me be like, that's not cool, man. Like, we're.
Yeah. One of our EPs, Gabriel, was just like, I've never seen someone's face during our feedback screening when, Ruben is bankrupt, and just like, and Gabriel's father. And, it's a perspective I don't understand yet, and hopefully one day I will.
Yeah.
He's not always making the right, he's almost always making the wrong choice.
Right.
But he has a lot of heart and is being pushed by so many forces in his life. His partner is very supportive, even though she
supportive.
Even though she doesn't understand it.
Wow. Kudos to her. She is an excellent partner, and I couldn't believe that she was so supportive. And it was so interesting, the moment that you capture with them where he is trying so hard to get her to say that she loves it.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it doesn't really, I could take it or leave it. It doesn't really matter that much to me, but I understand it matters to you.
He always says she loves it, but she won't admit it.
Right. But then when you give her the chance, she kind of tells you what's really going on, which is like, this is your thing, man.
Which is what I think the movie's all about, is like this connection. Like, if we all felt a little closer to each other, maybe we wouldn't be attacking one another on social media or spending our life savings on a bigger penis that our partners don't want.
Right.
If he and these other men, the movie's not pro or anti, everyone has the right to choose. But, some of these men, I think, before assuming their partners want it, should just sit down and have that conversation. And it's connected to something so much bigger that maybe it'll be an amazing point of connection between them and between, many of the patients that we see.
Oh man, Daniel, I could talk to you all day, man. I'm so enjoying this. But I know that we're kind of up against time, so let's do what we call our lightning round at the end. So first question is, what was the gateway drug documentary for you that was like, I want to do this for a living, I love documentaries, I want to make something like that?
Interesting. I think a lot of the Errol stuff, like Gates of Heaven, or even though everyone talks about Fog of War, I think Unknown Known for me, Rumsfeld.
Cool.
I'm like a real politics junkie. A lot of Penny's work. I mean, a lot of people in the film stuff that Sheila Nevins worked on. She's at HBO and was at HBO and is one of our EPs.
We didn't even talk about that. I saw her name as an EP. How did that come about?
I am very close friends with her longtime producer and assistant.
Oh, cool.
And everyone, we were having an impossible. It's funny how when the movie is successful, everyone says I knew it all along. But I was unemployed and trying to find a way to do it, and everyone kept saying get to Sheila, and finally Marissa, who's an EP and a great friend, got me in with Sheila. She got it right away. She called Randy and Fenton in the room. And rest is history.
Amazing. Wow, what a powerful executive producer to have. That's fantastic.
At the time, was 86. I think now she's 87 and just has an easy taste and fearless. And she kept saying, I don't want to name names, but she would name different executives and say, I don't, But she was like, this is going to be a hit and it's going to be great and whatever you need. And it was like at that time when I was in such a bad place, Penny supporting it and Sheila supporting it, even if it wasn't financial, just meant the world to me.
Wow.
But
Oh, go ahead.
inspirations quickly is the movies that blew my mind have always have mostly been narrative and
Hey.
yeah.
So like which ones?
I'll just remember like I was the kid at summer camp who showed up with a box of DVDs and I was watching like Motorcycle Diaries or Children of Men or every Kubrick movie from from Lolita, from Killer's Kiss to Eyes Wide Shut, and the Coen brothers were very were very formative,
foundational for me too.
Yeah, the Coen Linklater, being in Austin.
Yeah,
but the Coen brothers were super foundational. And when I think about comedy, I think about Penny, but I also think about the Coen brothers.
Yeah, totally. Raising Arizona is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I mean, so many others, and like that was when I kind of, from a young age, discovered cinema and even the trashy stuff. And my dad was really into like big bulky 80s action movies.
Yeah,
always watching like Cliffhanger or or Demolition Man. Or,
yes. Oh, I love it.
Terminator 1 and 2 or whatever.
Totally. Yeah, Top Gun was very big with my dad in our house. Yeah.
Top Gun. So I guess the machismo masculine thing was sort of always there.
Yeah.
My grandfather loved Westerns.
Oh, see? So okay. So manhood's like exploration of...
Definitely, my dad is a huge part of it, who is like the ultimate man's man.
Interesting.
He's an immigrant. He's running marathons in his mid-70s.
Wow.
And was in the army and all this stuff. And so...
Oh, my gosh. So for him to have a documentarian son, I could understand is maybe a little confusing.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
It's like soft, sensitive guy who asks people about their feelings. But and he's a very sweet guy inside, the sweetest. So.
Oh, that's so great.
That's tough men off and on.
Process question really quick. I know we're not doing a good job keeping this lightning.
Oh, sorry.
You mentioned, I'm saying that about me. You mentioned that you were unemployed, having a hard time when Sheila and Penny came aboard.
Yeah.
So am I right in assuming that you're probably shooting a lot of the material yourself, editing it also yourself, and then when you get some money, you are then hiring a DP to come and do a little bit nicer shoots and an editor to put a polish on a cut and that sort of thing?
I came up doing everything, so I feel very comfortable. One-person band, editing. I cut the first 2 sizzles. Of the like 15 shoots, I probably did 5 on my own. Okay. When big moments happen, like Ruben selling his house, we had no money, so I booked the Spirit Airlines flight and flew by myself.
Spirit Airlines to film him? When you have no money, Spirit Airlines.
But our cinematographer, Victoria Campaner, is incredible, and all the brilliant shots in the movie are her, and anytime we had even a small amount, she was there and she was committed. So at most, it was 4 of us, DP, sound, producer, and me.
Okay.
And many times it was just me, and it was really based on speed, like do we have time, and money.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So second question is, we think of this as like the resource we wish was around when we were starting. So what advice would you give to somebody who is like working on their first documentary or wanting to do this for a living?
Give yourself reps. Just make work. I made work in obscurity for so long. I mean, people say, oh, you got your first job at the Atlantic at 22. I started at 14. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but anyone who remembers me from high school, I was the kid who played sports and was kind of cool, but really spent all my time making movies. Even in sports, I would like grab my friends and make them be in my weird movies. So just get reps in. And with social media and YouTube, oh my God, I've been criticizing it the whole time, but you do have an ability to build audience now for the first time. Which
Unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, like the cameras on our phones in our pockets are nicer than the cameras that I started with.
It's amazing, and like there's sort of no excuse anymore. If you want to be a filmmaker, it was like being a writer. 20 or 30 years for the previous times in history, all you needed was a pen.
Right.
And now we have a pen in our pocket.
Exactly. Wow. Cool. Okay. Great advice. And then lastly, what is the thing non-film related that you cannot stop thinking about right now?
Oh, interesting. How to be a good person, and also how to balance this crazy career with like with a life that matters. And I want to have kids and want to be a good son to my parents who are still around, but getting older, and be there for my friends. And the older you get, I'm sure even more for you as a father, you just get pulled in a million directions. And
Absolutely.
if you're a father and a filmmaker, it's like you're trying to survive financially. And so I guess just like really think a lot about like, am I being good to the people I'm around? And that keeps me up at night actually a lot more than my films.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
And that keeps you up at night. That's interesting because you strike me as a very conscientious, kind, inquisitive person. So
yeah, I should probably. That's my mom is who I love very much, is the biggest warrior in the world.
You got some of that
for sure.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that keeps me up. Like my dad this week had major spine surgery during.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's okay, and it went great.
Oh, good.
But he thought I'd be disappointed, and the first thing I said was like, I just want you to be better.
Yeah.
So
good, and he is better. He's good.
Great. He's doing great, and
great.
He's had a rough few years physically, but he's doing well.
Well, your parents have to be so proud of you. When I told my mom I was going to be a film major, she literally cried and told me that I would be a manager of a blockbuster video. And then cut to when Winnebago Man premiered, and she got to like meet all these celebrities and be in the audience when the whole room was applauding and stuff. It was really like it was an incredible moment, and I'm still around and Blockbuster isn't.
There we go.
Yeah.
And that's the power of cinema, is like the shared experience,
Exactly.
Like it's amazing when it finally clicks for our parents.
Yes.
And my dad saw this movie and said, okay, maybe my son doesn't have a sick fetish, and that's actually an interesting movie here.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't think that people would think that you were interested in that because you wanted the surgery, but that makes total sense now that you say it. Like, oh, people, like of course he's making that movie.
It came up many times. It never crossed my mind, but it's not. I just think it's an amazing way to explore this country.
Absolutely, man. Well, I know we talked about a lot. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure to cover, like where people can find your work, where to see the movie next, that sort of thing?
So we're just starting our festival run. We're trying to figure out what happens next. Would love to bring it everywhere. So reach out to, you can email me at daniel@outerborough.tv or rebecca@outerborough.tv, probably better.
Okay.
You can follow us on social, on our Outerborough account, or Manhood Film, or follow me. And we want to get this out far and wide. We think it's an important film, and we want to talk about it.
I absolutely loved it. I was surprised by it. I was a little bit creeped out by it. I felt conflicted at the end. And I felt very hopeful about the state of documentary because it feels very fresh in a way. And I guess actually, I know we're coming up to the car here, but I do want to ask you, because so many of our guests, we're living in this time of such uncertainty with AI coming along. And so many of our guests, are understandably, I think, kind of stuck on the doom and gloom of what seems like is happening in our industry. So as somebody who's newer to the industry, or at least like kind of at the beginning of your career, having a lot of success, how are you feeling about the state of our industry?
Ooh.
Big question, I know.
It's hard. I think documentary can feel like an expensive hobby. And we need to have much more frank conversations about where filmmakers are financially. And I mean this in a good way, that some filmmakers don't need to work and can just make their movies, and that's okay, and we should be more transparent about that. And some filmmakers do need to work in ways, and we figured out at Outerborough, where I work, where I run this small company now, we make commercials to make money. We've not made $1 from a documentary.
That's exactly my experience. That's why I have The Bear, our production company, is we keep the lights on with commercials.
I've deferred my fee of basically nothing, and so has Carrie. If the movie sells, we'll make back maybe what a normal directing fee is, maybe. It's not a revenue stream, and I think some people can toil away for years because they're privileged in that way and others can't. And I think we all just have to find a model that works, and there's no shame. Whatever you have to do, whether it's weddings or commercials, or I'm producing for a lot of people now. I'm producing a rap documentary that I'm so excited about that I cannot talk about, but it's for a friend and director who I love, about a very famous rapper from Chicago.
Wow, awesome.
I do development for people. I mean, I would read about Sean Baker, that he would like write for people and he'd start and all these things just so he can make his films.
Right.
And I feel like I come from that tradition, and I just adore people like him who keep hustling. And if you hustle and you work hard, I don't believe in the maxing out your credit card thing. That is stupid. Kevin Smith should stop telling people that for 25 years. Don't do that. Just find a way to make money, be responsible, and whatever is keeping you up at night, make a film about that.
Man, I love it. Thank you so much for the time today. It was really a pleasure, man.
This was, I kind of want to give you a hug.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh,
This was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
This was awesome.
This was awesome. This episode is sponsored by our good friends at Rambler Sparkling Water, a tasty limestone mineral blend with the perfect level of tight, crispy bubbles. Made in America and proudly supporting American rivers. Ramble on. Next time on DocWalks, I fly to Kansas City and I interview Sharon Liese, an old friend of mine. You hear us talk about our collaboration on a CBS TV show. You hear us talk about Sharon's new film Seized that premiered at Sundance this year. We talk about what it's like to live in Kansas City and not in LA or New York. Sharon is a dear friend, and I think you're really going to dig it. Next time on DocWalks.
DocWalks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at DocWalks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.